Marky Worthington Podcast all day.
All day.
Dream by night.
Don't buy me a drink. Just give me $10.
All day.
Go down to the strip club with your floppy disk and turn it into a hard drive.
Yeah, bro. You'll get fucking thrown out by Big Tony. We're here to name names and make people feel more ashamed for shit that they're not proud of.
Don't blow it. Keep it simple. Count your money.
Oh, whatever it is.
Hello and welcome to episode 59 of the Marky Worthington Comedy Podcast. This here is a Swapcast that I'm doing with my other podcast that I do and my co-host JDecay. It's a podcast called Canberra Metalheads. Basically interviewing bands, mostly metal, some alternative and rock bands. And I don't know if a lot of the comedy podcast followers actually know about the other podcast that I do, so I figured I'd do a swap. This is a good episode that I recorded earlier this year, and it's with one of my favourite bands, or a member from one of my favourite bands in Canberra called Witchskull. So we got Joel from Witchskull in on the show. As far as dates go, we've got the Comedy at the Basement with Kai Fei headlining on the 1st of March. So if you're listening to this as soon as it comes out, that one there is tomorrow. So check that out. If you haven't already, got tickets and everything like that. All the tickets are in the bio. If you're listening to the audio edition of this show, then head on over to my Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube. They're all at Marky Worthington Comedy. Or on Twitter at Marky Comedy. And also I've been doing some gaming at Marky Worthington Gaming on Twitch. Also stream to my YouTube channel. So basically the main platform that I'm got all sorts of media on at the moment is all on YouTube. Wherever you're looking at this podcast or listening to it, there'll be links in the descriptions to where you can get all the stuff. If you want to see the memes for the meme winner I post 5 memes once a month, and then let the audience of Instagram choose their favorite by voting in the form of likes or reacts on my story, so then I can announce it on the show. So if you're just listening to the audio edition, head on over to one of my other platforms like Instagram or Facebook or YouTube to see the meme. And for everybody that's watching this on YouTube or on one of the other social media platforms as a video form, the winner for this month's meme compilation, with no dispute, is this bad boy here. Man, I was talking about this on the Drop Bear episode, and we both worked at the basement, seen a lot of metal gigs in our time, and this is no different. This is one of the funniest goth memes I've seen in a long time. So yeah, cheers for voting on that one, and we'll switch over to this view now. Look at that, all technical. But yeah, cheers everyone for checking it out, and we'll get into the episode now. Let's take it away with Joel, JDecay, and myself, all on Canberra Metalheads. Crossover with Marky Worthington Comedy Podcast. Cheers.
Hey, welcome to Canberra Metalheads. This is Season 3, Episode 5. We got JDecay in the studio with...
What's up?
Yeah, that's it. With Joel from Witchskull. How you doing, man?
Yeah, really good. Thanks for having me, lads. Good to see you again.
Yeah, good to have you back on the show, dude. This is, I think, the first one that I've recorded in person for Canberra Metalheads in the home studio. So it's good to... it's a bit cozy with anything more than 3, but it's good to have you in here, dude.
Yeah, no, it's always good to chat to you, lads, and sort of bring it on. Sounds good.
Yeah. I seen on socials you guys have put up like a recording, like a little sample of you guys recording some stuff recently.
Yeah, Adam from Toyland Studios put that up. So we just got back from Melbourne. We played at the Bendigo Hotel Saturday night just gone, And we went into the studio to just do a couple of days sort of pre-production stuff for the next album. So I think it was 9 songs we kind of recorded over 2 days just to get an idea of where we're at. So that was a sample of that.
Yeah, cool. It was good to see the setup, and also watching the recording process a bit behind the scenes. Like sometimes you just see the live set or hear the album. It's good to like get a little sample of like behind the scenes as well.
Yeah, look, I'm always interested in seeing that stuff from the bands I sort of like as well. It's it's a weird process, the recording. You know what it's like, Jay. You've done plenty of it. It's a kind of it's a bit of an alien environment compared to live. Live, you can just kind of cut loose, whereas with sort of any sort of studio work, you still want to play hard, but you've got to be far more sort of on the ball,
restricted. And man, I don't even like to turn the video on.
Yeah,
when I'm doing any recording, because it kind of makes me feel like I've got to act a certain way or feel a certain way, and I can't make mistakes.
Look,
so
you're
like
right.
if I'm recording something that's super technical, I just turn the camera off, man.
Yeah, well, I didn't know they were filming that, so it's always better when you don't know.
Yeah, if you don't know, you don't know.
Something afterwards, then you're not. But look, when we did our second album, Covensville in New York, we recorded that whole thing, so we were on radio mics the whole time.
Yeah.
And when they put them on, we just felt really weird and self-conscious.
Yeah.
But like, no shit, in 10 minutes, you just totally forget they're even there.
Yeah, true. I was going to say, because I think before, I don't know if it was on the show or whether it was off mic, but the last time I had you guys in the studio, so not the last time you were on the show, but the last time I had you in the studio earlier in the series of Canberra Metalheads, I think it was just after you guys got back from New York, so you were like sort of telling me about how they recorded all that with like the mics and stuff.
Yeah, that was it was weird. And while you're doing an album, it's even weirder. But it like I say, you just forget.
Yeah.
You then it was even so the whole time we were even tracking, we had people filming us while we were doing our takes, but you're so sort of ingrained in what you're doing that you just forget. Like sometimes you'll notice it, but you're so busy concentrating, it just doesn't. You just blank it out, which surprised me because I was a bit worried when we organised to do it. I didn't want it to affect the performance when you're actually tracking. You know what I mean? But we actually didn't have
fine.
any. It was absolutely fine.
Was
that's a testament to your ability to play your own stuff, man. Because I
don't know if it's that or we just got so used to having those people there. The good thing was we had a decent. We were tracking for 7 days, and I think when you have that length of time, you can
after about the second day you get used to it. But
that's right.
Yeah. Oh man, I've had a bunch of people just like blow up and like skits and walk out of the studio and be like, turn it off, I want the film. Like,
it is alien. Like, and I said to the other guys, I said, look, we should at least try it. I said, if it becomes something that's going to affect the way you record, then we'll kill it.
Yeah.
But
sure.
we all kind of just, like I say,
man.
you tune into what you're doing is so much more important than worrying about how you look on camera.
Yeah.
Was that for like a doco or something?
Look, we decided just because we were going to New York, and the reason we went because it was Tony's sort of hometown.
Yeah.
So for us, it was just something we wanted to capture,
and
we were working with Billy Anderson as a producer, and Jason Fuller from Bloodduster, who's also been involved in all of our albums and is the main guy. He co-produced it with Billy Anderson.
Yep.
So having those two guys there at the same time and always radio mic'd, we just sort of figured it'd be an interesting doco, regardless of it being Witchskull. You know what I mean? So eventually I'd like to think we could, we'd need the money to kind of pull it all together because there's like 100 and something hours of footage.
Yeah.
So to get that into something cohesive, I reckon it'd be interesting for anyone because you're watching someone like Billy Anderson in the studio making an album. So the band, it's not really relevant that it's us.
Yeah.
It was just that whole process. And it's, there's definitely some interesting stuff there.
Shit,
Well, especially if you're into music and bands and whatever. I find this whole studio process fascinating. I can watch any doco on a band making an album, no matter who it is. I find the whole thing interesting.
Yeah, behind the scenes sort of stuff. It's a bit like now with podcasting and YouTube videos and content and stuff like that, you get to like produce stuff like that. Like before it was kind of, it always seemed a little bit of like a secretive kind of process, you know what I mean? Like, because there just wasn't platforms to share all that information.
You're right. So that sort of stuff has changed a lot. And, you know, we have a love-hate relationship with the whole social media side of it because I'd just rather it didn't exist, but it does.
Yeah.
So if it does exist, you can't just pretend it's not there. So we're luckily got, you know, good people that look after our social media side, because if it was left up to us, we just wouldn't do anything. Especially Tony, he refuses to be on the internet full stop.
Yeah.
So it's like...
Sometimes it's a necessary evil, but right. And
well, look, it is, you know. And at the end of the day, there's good parts of it. Like like I say, like we got home from being in the studio, and then someone logged in and said, "Oh, there's a clip that we didn't even know had been done while we were in the studio." So you're watching something that you've done that day that you didn't even know was happening. So there's things like that which are fine, you know.
Yeah.
If people are interested, then that's, you know.
Yeah, a lot of the knowledge base stuff for like outboard analog gear and things like that inside studios, you had to like mentor through different producers in different studios to know that gear and, you know, their special sauce, and you had to become really good friends with those producers before they told you what different things were, and you had to be kind of a pseudoscientist to understand how some of that gear worked, man. And that was a big part of how that production stuff was back in the day. Nowadays you've just got replications of it on your computer as a virtual instrument. You know, you just turn it on, have a play, see how it goes. That one's not real good. Oh well, throw it away. It's nothing. Like, and this is like hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of outboard gear, man. You know, like
I think that's also a lot to do with like availability of gear. Like before, you're saying like in the early days of recording albums and shit like that, to produce a video and spend all that money doing that video, you're gonna do like a proper video, right? But like with like a proper music video or whatever. But now, because everyone's got a camera in their phone or whatever, like that can do like a decent video, or, you know, just a camera they can set up like a GoPro, like how we're recording this or whatever. You can just produce content and put it out lower cost, whereas before you would have needed like a fucking dude to edit that and all that shit. Like, it would never come out that afternoon. It would be like a
that's exactly right. And the thing is, there's elements of it that are good in that regard, but for us, we still tend to operate in the with a real old school approach. So when we make albums, we go do 2 days of pre-production in the same studios that we're going to do the album in, to sort of get a feel for everything that's going on. You know, we spend 10 to 15 grand on making an album, which if you put it up sound-wise against, people that are making albums in their house for, a third of that price, you might say, well, the sounds are slicker. But there's something about going into, we don't sound replace anything. So there's something to be said for getting really good mics in a really good room on really well-tuned drums, going through really good preamps in the desk and out onto whatever format, whether it's analog or all digital. There's all of these steps of the process that, to me, I just find that whole process fascinating. I like the idea that when we were going to record our new album in March, and I've got no idea how my drums are going to sound. I've got a ballpark, but they could sound better than the last album, or they could sound worse than the last, depending on whatever happens when we make that record. And I'd rather that than just know, well, my drums will sound exactly the same as the other three because we're dialing in this sound. You know what I mean? So I'm not taking anything away from the digital and dialing those things in, because it comes down to what you want to do. But our stuff is old school sounding, so we'd rather work in that old school way, and we can afford to do so because we've got the label support, so we just do, you know.
Man, it makes sense. And as long as, you're proud of your material and what you're being able to produce is amazing.
Well, that's it, man. We do everything with our clicks too. And I've worked with clicks before, but we choose as Witchskull to just do everything. So when you do that, it means you generally have to have more time to do more takes, because you can do really poor takes. And, so the weird thing with the New York album, I think, there's only about two or three songs on it that weren't the first take, and it wasn't because we were so perfectly refined. It was just a case of when you can get a really good mix in your cans and you can hear what you're doing and the vibe's good. It's like a gig.
It is the vibe.
And you get those early takes and you just go, well, doing it again isn't going to make it any better, so we'll roll with it, you know.
Yeah, man.
But then there's other times you do a song and it's just not working, so you just leave it and come back to it the following day. And that's why having extra days for us is, I just like that whole process.
Yeah. Well, it's better to sort of have it and not need it, sort of thing, I guess.
Yeah, look, we just prefer to spend longer. Like, we're spending 9 days to just track the next album, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
for us, it's like, we'll go down to Toyland and do our beds there, mainly drums, because it's got a great drum room. Adam, who's the the main sort of engineer producer there, he's a drummer. So having a drummer, when you're tracking drums is unreal, because he comes out and checks the tension of your head after every take, and really knows the mics, knows the room. So you're going to get good sound of drums. You get good sound of drums on an album, you're sort of 3/4 of the way there, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then we do 4 days out. I think we then move to Goat Sound, the new Goat Sound studio that Fuller runs.
Yeah.
So that's where we were last weekend. And so looking for just excellent people. We've worked on Fuller's been involved in every album we've been on, and I just love working with him. Top dude, funny, and just super pro and so good at what he does.
Yep.
We just sort of figured we're not going to mess with it. We know that system works for us, so we'll just roll with it.
Yeah. Well, Fuller's come up on the show as well, because I interviewed Aaron from Burn the Hostages, which is Fuller's project as well.
Yeah.
I only interviewed Aaron, but I think between the episodes we've done, and also worth mentioning, this some of the previous episodes we've done has covered off a lot of the earlier albums, so there might be people that are listening to this show going like, oh, why aren't we talking about the Breathing Blue Light video or whatever like that? It's because all that stuff was covered in previous episodes. So like, yeah, if anyone's listening and saying like, I want to know more, listen. I think we've done like 3 episodes before.
Well, we do all our videos with a guy called Richard Granger, who's a mate of ours who directs it all, and he works with a real pro cameraman, a guy called Roger. I can't remember Roger's surname at the moment, but gun super pro sort of cameraman. So again, we go down that path of doing everything old school.
Yeah. But
we're very lucky that we know people that sort of help us, because if we were paying corporate rates for them, we could never afford it, But they sort of like the process of being involved in it. So we just like doing everything old school if we can. Not to try and sound old school, it's just the approach that we feel most comfortable with.
Man, it's working.
Well, thanks.
You know what I mean? Like that, and your tier of releases and your product is fucking amazing, man. Like,
well, I'd put that down to the people we work with. Like, as a band, we rehearse a lot. We were talking off air just about how it seems to be a bit of it doesn't seem to happen as much from what we've seen. We talk to bands all the time, and I don't know, for us it's at least 2 times a week, and as we're gearing up to the album in March, we'll probably be doing 3 days a week.
Yeah.
And I just think it's there's just no substitute for that.
Like, it shows.
I think. Well, thanks. Yeah. I think what happens is if you put a metronome against us, it wouldn't be all, But when you're well rehearsed, you tend to sort of fluctuate altogether.
Yeah.
And if you fluctuate altogether, it sounds really tight. But what's tight? If you put it against a metronome, we'd be out. But we're not trying to be tight against a metronome. We're trying to just actually lock in.
Flow.
Yeah. And if you can lock in and then not have to think about it, then you actually enjoy the process. So and that's why studio's a bit hard. You're trying to get that natural sort of thing that you lock into rehearsals or gigs, and you never really kind of capture it.
True, yeah.
You always feel the take that's on the album is, you just know, man, I've played that so many better times at rehearsals.
Yeah.
But you're on the clock, and it's just part of it. You just got to live with it and just be as prepared as you can, and just hope you nail it on the day.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. It's I forgot what. I think I might have spoken about this earlier on a previous episode, but it's I heard this interview, and they're like, man, I love when you listen to an album and you hear like impurities in it, like an old album which was like a one take.
Definitely, man. Well, you hear all those imperfections in Witchskull albums, and that's because if we feel that we've got a good take based on the vibe of it, it'll stay even if there's little mistakes, because the mistakes aren't the issue. It's just trying to, I don't know, man, because I'm a bit older, I just find like Master of Puppets, when that came out in '86, that seemed to be the benchmark for everything just being super precise. And there's a time and a place for that, but a lot of the modern stuff now I hear is so precise. I feel that what a lot of metal's lost is that sort of soul within itself, and that sort of, and all my favourite stuff is like you're saying, those older albums. Like I love old Venom, you know what I mean? And you hear them, and it's just the chaos that's there. They're not going 3 bars without some kind of slight error, but the actual vibe and the groove of it just makes up for any of that, you know?
Yeah, no, for sure, dude. I'm not like a massive. I know that you like your vinyl and you got a sort of specific sort of like collection. I don't have like a massive vinyl collection, but I definitely can hear some of the older albums and stuff where you can. There's just like we're on the clock, dude. We need to get this thing done. Like you'll just hear like a yeah,
totally, man.
You can nearly hear the rest of the band just going like. Watching the take, just being like, don't fuck it, like don't like the dude's just sitting there like trying to do a solo, and it's just like don't fuck that.
Well, that's the beauty of and again, Jay, you'd know more about this because you'd record all the time in your studio. But man, when I was in Armored Angel and we did the Stigmata EP, like some of those takes we were horrified with, but the time was up. It was all analog. It was all going to tape. And it's like that's the take you've got. And if you look at that era, all the bands I liked, like the early, Creator and Sodom, Destruction, all that cool German thrash stuff. Man, you can just hear errors the whole way through. But that's the same way. It's like that's why they all get a bit freaked out about it. They don't like the way Pleasure to Kill sounds, whereas I love it because they go, "Oh, we just playing so poorly," but it's like. They're missing the point. I reckon they're missing the point. And I can sort of see it now with Armoured, although I don't like really listening to it. I can still hear, I'd rather it be that way because it's honest. It was like, I was trying my absolute best, but I just wasn't all that great at it. So when you hear it back, it just kind of, that's an actual, real, true indication of who you are as a band. That's the same as Witchskull. If you listen to our first Witchskull album, that's probably still my favourite. It's so sparse and loose and... But it's because it's a true indication of what we were as a band. Like we're tighter at now because we've been playing 8 years. But when me and Tony did the first album, we were a rhythm section for 6 months. You know what I mean? So it's just looser. But in some ways, that's what I like because again, we just recorded it completely. You know, there was no tricks, no clicks, no nothing. Just hit record and played them, and I like it for that. You know?
Yeah, I suffer the opposite problem. So I'm like to the tick. All the time, and like I'm trying to get it to be perfect. And you just sit in the studio for days on end, man, for the click. Because I got the studio at home, I just jump in the booth, man. And so I'll be in the booth for like 24 hours trying to get one guitar take. And it just becomes crazy because you're trying to. I try to live up to the new mass produced. Thing at the technical death metal level, man, and it's almost unachievable.
Well, and I think that's the thing. You've got a lot of bands that want to achieve that, but maybe, and I don't know about your playing, but I'm saying sometimes these dudes that are doing it are like absolute some of the best guitarists there are in the game. And we're not all like I know that from me as a drummer, too, man. Most drummers I've ever played with in any gig in my life are better players than me. You know what I mean? But I used to be, worried about that when I was young, whereas now it doesn't affect me at all because I just play to my strengths, which is being far more primal and basic, you know what I mean? Which contributes to the way Witchskull sounds. So I just play to my strength. Well, that's what Tony does too. As a rhythm section, we're pretty kind of caveman, our approach.
Love it.
But it works because Marcus is a gun rhythm player too, but then he sings and does the solos and he just flavors everything on top of a really solid rhythm section. But man, like I hear what you're saying. The only advice is it's hard. Like even when I'm playing things, I hate the fact that I haven't got it perfect. But then when I hear it after some years past, I'm glad that it's not perfect. But at the time when you're tracking it, you still have those same feelings of anxiety about your playing not being at the level you think it should be, and it's just that's why the studio is kind of a.
But with my stuff personally, I try not to do any of the cheats. So I'm doing real tracks.
Well, that's a good thing to aspire. Yeah, man, that's a good thing to aspire towards because to me that's where you can kind of hear it, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Once you start doing the cut and paste thing, it's like, and that's the bit of the problem with clicks. Like, if you hear a song that's grooving, the chances are, by the time you get to that last chorus, it's a little bit quicker than your first chorus because the energy and the adrenaline has driven that tempo slightly up. Yeah. Whereas when you've got a click, that controls you to play within that, so it sort of controls that natural adrenaline and holds it back. Whereas that natural adrenaline, and you know it, because then if you put the song on repeat, it comes back round to the first time and you go, oh, wow, it seeps faster at the end.
Yeah, true.
And you don't want it to be too much, but a little bit is actually what gives it that whole feeling of energy, and the listener actually feels that as well. They feel they're getting more charged up by the end of the song because the song's making you do that, and that can only happen through not being governed by an electronic pulse.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But anyway, it's like you got to do what works for you. You know what I mean?
No, because we got backtracks and we're like working with like a whole bunch of like playback stuff.
Yeah, right.
Can't.
Yeah.
So like, if you deviate from the metronome, then you can't play to your backtrack.
Yeah, and that's the great thing about doing the clicks, because if you are against it, you can go, I fucked up the second verse. I might as well just cut and paste the first verse into it. You know what I mean? So there's things. Whereas when you're playing not against a click, it's very hard to drop. Marcus can do it, but he's Marcus, so I don't even know how he does that.
What I do is I'll do like a song first.
Yep.
And then I'll tap time it through the whole thing, so you still get that natural feel up.
Yeah, well, that's what I think is good. There's a lot of blokes that are doing what you're doing now, where it's not an issue with the technology; it's an issue with the way we're choosing to use the technology.
Yeah,
so if it's about sort of getting the human element back into it.
Yeah,
and you can totally do that with the modern technology. It's just, at the moment, it's still been going down a path for me that's just so precise, and so like when Metallica did Master of Puppets, it's so precise and tight, but it's like they were still recording in an analog sense, whereas now getting that tightness is so much easier, because like you say, you can just bring up the drum pattern and just tweak everything so that it just becomes metronomic.
You click a button and it's done.
Yeah, fully quantized.
One button. Boop.
And the problem with that is
it's shit.
It's a machine, dude. And the thing is, as human beings, whether you're playing it or listening to it, there's something about a human being playing something that we in our sort of sub or unconscious realise.
Yeah.
I had a big discussion with my brother. He's like full, so anal about sound. He struggles with all the modern productions for that reason.
Yeah.
And his theory was, and I kind of think he might be onto something, is with digital, it's all blocks. So when you're hearing something, your unconscious works it out. So once it works out, okay, it's all fucking blocks. You know what I mean? It might be able. That's why you have a bit of fatigue when you hear some of this newer stuff.
Yeah, man.
Whereas the analog recordings, you can put on an album from AC/DC you've heard like 1,000 times, and it sounds fresh every time. And I think that's because of the analog waves. Your mind is constantly trying to work out all of these different things at once, and it can never actually pinpoint any kind of pattern. So perhaps your mind actually never works it out, so you'd never get that fatigue of hearing something that's able to be mapped. And I don't know if that's true or it's not, but I kind of think, why else would it be? Why is it when you hear completely quantized and digitized music, at first you hear it and you go, oh man, that production's amazing, and then 3 songs in, you're kind of daydreaming. You're not paying attention. Whereas the old stuff, you can just put on a Sabbath album or whatever, and it just never gets old.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, maybe there's something with that. But what you're saying is awesome. You're using technology, but you're working, how do you bring the human element back into it so that it hasn't got that feeling of a machine?
Never quantize with the machine. If you have to quantize a thing because it's broken, and you're fixing it, then you use your hands to quantize it. You don't.
Yeah, and that's a better way to go.
That human feel back.
Sometimes, if I've done a good take, but there's a couple of snare hits that are lagging, I'll just say, oh, well, we need to nudge them in. But it's not nudging them into the exact spot. It's like you say, it's just like move it a mil to the left so it sounds less late than it needs to, but still sounds natural. Yeah. So, man, it's
when you're recording acoustic drums, you can't quantize it like that, because you're in every other mic when you hit that snare.
Yeah.
And so you can't, it's not the same.
Yeah.
At my studio, I don't record acoustic drums at the moment.
Yeah,
so
right.
I'm recording E-kit, right?
Yeah.
And because all the bands that are recording there, they all have triggers.
Yeah.
Right? But you don't quantize it. They're playing a real kit.
Yeah.
And the thing that you do is you kind of like edge it.
Yeah.
But you're not getting mic bleed or nothing like that.
Look,
So
I totally get it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Nudging. Look, mate, if you listen to Zeppelin albums, you can hear a cymbal go psst, which is basically they've just cut the tape.
Yep.
So it's no different, back then. It's just Led Zeppelin had a massive budget and were able to sit there and splice tape when they needed to make sure tapes were as perfect as they could be.
Yeah, man.
So there's nothing wrong. When you go into the studio, you're supposed to do that. You're trying to get the best sounding thing you can. But you don't want it to don't want it to sound like a machine's playing it. And that's where a lot of the metal stuff's gone for me. That's why I'm not into it. I tend to like bands that are doing stuff that is more them just playing it, and you can hear that they're playing it.
I love it.
But each to their own, man. Of course, there's a lot of people that are probably sick to death of hearing us talking about tech stuff, you know what I mean? But to me, it's about that music. Music's supposed to make you feel something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know a lot of like the Canberra Metalheads. A lot of them are musos too, and a lot of them are in bands and or have people that are in bands, and they love hearing this stuff, man.
Oh, well, look, I've got an interest in it.
Kind of our target audience.
Oh, good. Hopefully people aren't switching off.
No. There's also like anytime we do anything about gear, good times, touring, people switch into that and like, oh wow, that was amazing. I've never heard anyone do a deep dive into that kind of thing before.
Right.
They love to hear that stuff because
good. I like talking about it because I think it's been something that's what's changed for me. What's changed metal the most has been that it's delved into this precision mode. When, like I say, if you listen to a Priest album, you know what I mean. They're tight because they're unreal players.
Yeah.
You can totally hear that it's being played by people.
Yeah, man.
And then you get into a lot of the, if I compare like Creator's Pleasure to Kill to one of their current records, it's just like, man, they still write good riffs, but I just can't listen to the albums because it just sounds so perfect. It's just like, man, like I'm not saying you have to play it messy, like not that Pleasure kills me, but you know what I mean. It's like that was the best they could play at that time. Yeah, but it's like bands like Airborne. You know what I mean? It's like, fuck, you got the biggest budget in the world. Why aren't you recording a full analog album? You know what I mean? Like that'd sound unreal. Like hearing a band like that actually playing with mic drums and going full to tape, like all the stuff that they love, Rose Tattoo and AC/DC did back in the day. Like hearing a band, but I don't know that they can because the record companies are all pushing
digital stuff.
What's the expected thing? And the expected thing is this precision. And it's and that's why I kind of like the scene we're in. It's more like it's generally a lot of older dudes that have just come from, like when I was played back in the day, I was playing kind of thrash and death metal stuff. And as much as I still love that stuff, man, I don't want to play it now. It's hard playing when I was 20, let alone trying to play it when I'm 50, you know what I mean? So for me, it's kind of like this sort of doomstone or whatever you want to call it. It's like sort of a bit of a hark back to sort of more traditional kind of metal.
Yeah, man.
And it's more kind of what I grew up listening to.
Yeah.
So Priest, Motorhead, Sabbath is what... me and Marcus were in a band when we were 15, and it was a couple of originals but mostly covers, and we looked at the covers and it was like all Sabbath, Motorhead, Priest and Venom. They were the only covers we did, and we laughed because it's like, well, it's all the same stuff that we totally dig now.
Yeah.
So it's like, obviously Witchskull's going to... Not that we sound like any of those bands individually.
Yeah.
But... obviously, we sound more like that than what we do the current Creator album.
Yeah,
obviously,
fully.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, that's the thing, man. Like, you can tell the tech talk's getting good when I don't chime in. Like,
just Marky's listening in all.
Yeah, I'm just sitting here like, all right, I'll just make sure that there's no clipping on the mics and we'll fucking just get this documented. But that's what I was going to say is... I actually, I think the only thing I can really contribute in that point of view is I've got mates that have seen bands that are so polished that they go to watch them live and they're like, I may as well just listen to an album. Like you kind of want to like hear a live presence. Dude, I watched a band last night, hilarious. They did a fucking cover, so everybody knew the song. And there's a solo, and the first thing he did, the whole band like cuts back, and he's just like, don't, and everyone's just like, you fucking, like, if that was their original song, you could probably play it off a bit better. But like, if you cover, like,
a new metal song that everybody heard, and you fuck up the solo, everyone's just gonna be like he did that. But me, like, working at the bar, and I see so many fucking bands, dude, I'm not gonna remember the cover you did, but because you fucked that solo up, man, I'm gonna, like, that's like the memorable part of the gig. Like, you could write like you could do like the best fucking song you ever did, right? Like, they could write the next big fucking thing, and in my mind, like, oh, you fucked up that Slipknot song.
Yeah,
you know. So, like,
that's always the risk of doing covers, man, because there's straight away there's a benchmark to put it against.
I still like it when bands like. Yeah, like I said,
I like to chop shit up. If I'm ever doing covers, man, I like to, like, I don't know. We were doing the cover nights, and we'd play it kind of like, I don't know, I'll walk 500 miles, but then mix it up and play like the Metallica Black Solo, something off like Forever I May Roam or whatever the solos of that stuff, and then kick into AC/DC, and then like. Just change the solos up and have like big feels.
My favourite covers are when people with Tourette's try and sing nursery rhymes, dude. Yeah, twinkle, twinkle, little cunt. You know,
well, we just did like we've just been doing
that. Might not make it onto YouTube.
City by AC/DC, man, and like there's nowhere to hide when you play a song like that, because to me they're the greatest, entity of all time. Although Mark's Sabbath, I reckon it's Bonnie or AC/DC. And just to try and play that, they're so hard to play because it's simple, but it's just so how in the pocket they are, and they're just so perfect at everything each person in that band does.
Yeah,
so to do that, each time we played it in Melbourne last weekend, and every time I counted it, I'm looking at the guys going, I hope we nail it.
Yeah.
And like, you're not trying to play it as good because you can't. That's not possible. But you just still want to play it in a way that kind of is a true representation of what the song is, played by how our band sounds.
Yeah.
So look, I like covers. I just have always thought it's a good thing for original bands to have covers in the set. I just think it's a good way to just kind of, I don't know. It's just one of those things that doesn't seem to happen that much now. It used to be a big thing back in the day, but it just doesn't seem to be that kind of...
Yeah, I think that, I mean, dude, I can't... I'm biased because I see so many...
Well, you would be. You see, every time you work, you see...
Dude, I fucking... If I have to hear Living on a Prayer one more fucking time, dude. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I have always preferred originals, but I do appreciate a good cover as part of the set.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. I'm not talking about a cover set. I'm talking about an original set. Like, in Melbourne, we played 13 songs, and the AC/DC song was the only cover, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's more just about, it breaks the ice a bit, you know what I mean? And it's just then, if people are seeing you for the first time, they don't know what your stuff is, but you put in Sin City at the end, and you're going to, if you're into heavy music, you're going to know what that tune is. And it's like... But you got to play it right. Luckily, we're playing it in Sydney next weekend, so hopefully we get it right again.
Well, by the time this episode comes out, we'll know, because this will come out week after next. So this one's So this one's. I think this episode actually comes out on the 24th, so the day before Christmas.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so by then we'll know how
it's unusual we're gigging this close to the end of the year, but I think it's just that we had that 2-month lockdown.
Got to kind of.
Could have put us behind the 8 ball to get our demo done and whatever. And Sydney and Melbourne leg of the tour in July kept getting cancelled. So we're playing the March of Winter tour that we did here in Canberra in July. We're doing it now in December, So it's just throwing everything into chaos.
It could work, I think, maybe. There could be a silver lining there where, like, people that you might pick up from the tour won't have to wait as long for the next album.
Yeah, look, I think what's happened is there's not many bands of our size, the real sort of lower end of the spectrum that are doing a lot of gigging, you know what I mean? So we're playing with Potion and Robot God in Sydney this coming Saturday night. And, the pre-sales are the best we've ever had for Sydney. There's already twice as many pre-sales of what we've ever played to people in Sydney. So something's changing, and I think that might be that people are finally starting to think we need to get back into the swing of life how it used to be.
Yeah,
and looking to get back into gigs,
Yeah. Get into it while you can before the next lockdown happens.
That's right. But I'm hoping that's fucking knows.
Who knows? Yeah,
they can't keep locking it down. Like I think the gig we're playing on the 17th in Sydney. I think on the 15th they're getting rid of masks. What's it called? Scanning in everything.
Yeah, right.
So it's like it's as close to getting back to normal as possible.
Yeah.
So for us, that's a bit of luck that's happening 2 days before our gig.
Yeah. No, I've definitely noticed here in Canberra that there's been a large local representation of people to come out, and we're getting people from Sydney come down as well because they're like, while we don't have as tighter restrictions as them, they're like coming here to be a bit more. It's a bit like in the US, you have to be 21 to drink, but it's 18 in Mexico, so you just go to Mexico and get drunk for $5.
Yeah, that's right.
When you turn 18, you know what I mean? Like it's just people from Sydney are like, well, there's no gigs going on here, but there's a gig on at Canberra, so we'll just come down and watch that.
Which is amazing because I grew up in Canberra, going to Sydney every couple of weeks for gigs. That's just what we did, Whereas if people are coming down here now, that shows that we've got the bands and we've got the venues.
We do have the venues as well,
So that's what's amazing. Like the basement's something else now, It's like full world class.
Yeah.
And just run by good people that look after the band, you know what I mean? Like,
it's important, yeah.
Passion and support of the metalheads,
Yeah, that's it. And that was with the previous owners, and the new owners seem even more committed to metal because they're a couple of metalheads who bought it.
Yeah.
You couldn't be sort of in a better...
More submersed in it than them. Yeah.
So it's just unreal. We can't believe it.
Yeah, no, it's good, man. I'll, well, I suppose we'll wrap it up with that. So the whole reason... I'm not cutting out all that fucking ums and ahs either. You guys can listen to that. So I'm cutting out the shit that I said before, so there'll be a section in there that you'll see faded together. But
you got to go analog and old school.
Yeah, I'll be cutting that tape. This episode will be the equivalent of the fucking symbol not riding out. Yeah. But there's a couple things to wrap up before we do it. You've got the new album recording at the moment. Is there any stirs about what you're looking at for release schedule or album name or anything like that?
Look, all we know at the moment is we're tracking it in sort of early to around mid-March. So that's all we know.
Yep.
We don't have a release date yet. It's due to come out on Rise Above again.
Yep.
Things like that. Can always we're contracted for that album, so we're hoping that all goes ahead. But you know what I mean, I've got to get in contact with the label and sort all of that out, but it should all be straightforward and happening. And this would be the last record on that contract, but for us personally, we'd rather stay with Rise Above if we could.
Okay, cool.
So that'll be a conversation for us to have with the label later, and hopefully they're still interested in keeping us, so we'll see.
Dude, you guys fit so well with that label too. I know Marcus was saying when you guys got your first Rise Above album, and they came with the Rise Above tape on it.
Yeah.
He was just like, man, I just wanted to rip it off and wrap my body with it.
Especially for Marcus. He's he's a huge... It's been his favourite label for 20 years.
Yeah,
so for him to have his band on it, he's still says he's still pinching himself. And I love it too. I just think it's an excellent label, and you still deal directly with Lee,
Yeah.
So nice. It's a label that's kind of well known, but it's still run completely. He's obviously got people working with him, but all of my details on me emailing him directly. You know what I mean? And so that's it just means he's you're dealing with a label who's a music fan first and foremost, and that makes a big difference, because I kind of wonder how many albums are we moving. He probably could have signed a band that's English that can just tour Europe the whole time and in their 20s and sell more records doing that than signing us. But he signs us because he likes what we're doing. So to me, having people in the scene that's still like that, we couldn't be happier, because at our age we're not planning anything other than just hoping to put out albums and sort of do small tours, and that'd suit us perfectly. So if we can stay with the Rise Above, that's the plan.
Yep.
But you never know if that sort of stuff's out of your hands. We'll just have to wait and see.
Man, hopefully it does, man. I think that they're good, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm just keen to see more content, and like that you guys will just keep pumping it out, which is really cool, man. Like, 'cause sometimes I find that it's hard to keep that momentum going, especially with the without the ability to do as many live shows or like practice and stuff. It gets a little bit harder when everyone's locked down and all that sort of crazy stuff. So, dude, it's all through all that. You still got stuff coming out, which is fucking awesome.
Thanks, man. It's been, and thanks to you blokes for keeping the whole sort of scene ticking along with this too. It's important to kind of, we were talking off air about just the whole thing about supporting the local scene, and so I'll see you before the January show anyway.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing. So to close that up, like, we'll have to get you back on once that album comes out and do another one. I feel like we've done the last. Yeah, well, we've kept up to date. We've pretty much done an episode after every album. So,
yeah, I think so. So we'd love to come in. Yeah. I'll get the lads as well. Like, I gave them late notice for this one.
Yeah.
So they didn't have time to get back to me. But yeah, after the album, we'll get all three of us to come in.
Make sure you follow Witchskull on social medias. They've got upcoming gigs into the new year. So make sure you subscribe to all their stuff so that you can find out where they're playing.
Yeah, witchskull.com's got it all, so check that out if you're interested, and
Yeah, cool. Well, let's wrap it up with that. Cheers.
Excellent. Thanks, Alex.